Hey friends, it's Jasmine from Jasmine's Astrology, but you can call me Jay. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. Today, we're going to be chatting about Trinesday, which is just a name that I made up for October 8th when we have a couple of trine aspects happening on the same day. And two trine aspects on the same day is quite nice. Trines tend to be the most supportive and encouraging aspects between planets. And so, in general, that just makes for a really nice energy on the day. But I also think these two trines are playing into a kind of larger story with some other long term transits. So, they might have more of an impact than your run of the mill everyday trine. They really stood out to me when I saw them on the astro calendar. It's just a theory. It might not come to be an actual practice, especially not for everybody, but such is the case with astrology. The current astro weather is always so dependent on how the current energies are, swirling and whirling within our own charts. So, what's a trine and why is it so great? Well, a trine is when planets are communicating from signs that have the same element. So we have water trines, earth trines, air trines, and fire trines. So planets making trine aspects are coming together with a shared motivation, a shared interest. There's a commonality to the mindset, so to speak, and trines are said to be of the nature of Jupiter. Mars, Venus, Saturn, and Jupiter all have aspects that they're associated with, and again, the trine relates to Jupiter. And Jupiter is a planet of uplift and hope, of benefactors and support, of opportunity and talent. Jupiter is about growth, improvement, and sometimes even just a little bit of luck. So, planets that come together in conversation via a trine aspect are having a positive conversation. There's a willingness to come together and collaborate and work towards something positive and beneficial for everyone involved. And that remains the case even when the planets involved in the trine aspect are the more challenging planets. So even when Mars and Saturn are involved in a trine, the energy is typically lighter and brighter. Or when planets are not in ideal condition, it still tends to elevate the situation. And that's exactly what we're looking at for the trines on Trinesday. On October 8th, Venus in Scorpio is going to trine Mars in Cancer, and Mercury in Libra is going to trine Jupiter in Gemini. So Venus, Mars, and Jupiter are all in less than ideal condition in those signs. Mercury is somewhat neutral in Libra, but it is very close to the sun right now, so it's also not totally firing on all cylinders at the moment. And yet, under these trine configurations, there is the potential for, the best of what these planets currently have to offer. There is the potential for that to come about under this type of configuration. So let's look at the Venus trine Mars first. Venus is in its place of detriment in Scorpio, ruled by Mars in its place of fall in Cancer. And so there's this sense that both energies, both parties, whatever is coming together under this aspect, neither of them are at their best. Both of them are working at some kind of disadvantage. Planets in difficult condition can be sluggish and sleepy. They're dealing with some kind of limitation or they're being delayed in their efforts. But when Venus and Mars come together under this hopeful aspect, there is this feeling of like, hey, we're in this together. This might not be ideal, but we have each other and we can support one another along the way. Maybe you have something that can support me in my struggles. Maybe I have something that can support you in your struggles, and we can offer each other that helping hand. Venus and Mars coming together in any of the more beneficial configurations can be about closeness, affection, and even romance, but it's definitely a spicier style of closeness, something that has sparks. Something that feels quite lively, which can be platonic as well. Venus and Mars often just reminds me of the ways that certain partnerships, whether it's, friendships or romantic bonds or even relationships with coworkers, any kinds of relationships really, but the the kinds of relationships that have this spirit of like pushing and challenging each other to be better, do better, try harder, keep going. It's that friendly sort of competition that pushes us to, yeah, be better. It's the good kind of friction. There is nothing complacent or boring, usually, about relationships that have strong Venus Mars energy. And so maybe this trine offers you that push or that spark that you need to keep at it, whatever it might be for you. Another part of the relationship piece here with Venus and Mars is that I feel like there is an invitation to consider who shows up for us when the chips are down, as well as who are we willing to make time and space for when we're not feeling our best. There's an invitation to really just think about that. And it's not that we need to cast aside the folks who haven't been able to make that effort or the folks that we haven't been able to make that effort for. This isn't about a judgment, because we never really know what other people are moving through, right? But it's rather just this opportunity to reflect on and see what emotions all of that might bring about because of that information. Maybe we are currently experiencing something that we realize a friend or a loved one was going through a year, 2 years ago, just a couple months ago, even. And only now do we fully understand the feeling of it. And it's, because of that we're able to find a deeper way to connect with that person. There is this sense that, like, because the planets are in more difficult condition, there's this ability to come together because of a sort of shared inability, a shared restriction, a shared limitation, a shared grief process. Some relationships are really able to develop and deepen through and because of the rough patches that are just inherent to life. And if there is someone that you want to show up for around Trine's Day, there's a big chance that there's a willingness to create deeper and more sustainable feelings of trust, loyalty, safety, and belonging within those bonds. Mars and Venus are meeting across water signs, so this does feel like working together to navigate some potentially tricky and tender or uncomfortable emotions. Maybe this is about finding a network of support from people who might be facing those similar restrictions or limitations or challenges, or maybe who are going through a similar grief process. Big water sign energy can also really pull us into our memories and have us, reminiscing with some sense of joy about the past or romanticizing it. We might be recalling an easier time and wishing that our present moment looked more like that. And while it's usually impossible to fully recreate circumstances from the before times, we can certainly meditate on what was feeling so good and joyful in those moments in time? And are there like bits and pieces that we can pull from that time to help us feel more of that joy in the present? What is some of the sweetness from those times that we're reminiscing about that we can hold on to right now? And any of that sweetness and joy that we are able to sort of extract from the past, or the people that we're able to create deeper connections with around this time, I think those are the aspects that play into the bigger picture of the Mars in Cancer transit. Mars has been in Cancer since September 4th and will remain there until November 3rd, which is already a longer than usual Mars transit. But Mars is actually going to return to Cancer on January 6th, 2025, and it's going to remain there until April 18th, 2025. This is all part of its upcoming retrograde cycle, so yeah, we've got a long road ahead of us for Mars in Cancer. And while there will be plenty of other planetary interactions for Mars along the journey of this retrograde cycle, more with Venus, in fact, there's something really stand out to me about this particular trine. And I think it's, Venus is in Mars's sign and they're interacting in such a positive way. So it feels almost like a peace offering of sorts, or like a token of goodwill that we can carry with us throughout this transit. It's like a boon almost. Like, Venus, even in its difficult condition, is potentially able to show Mars a safer, softer, sweeter side to whatever it's currently trying to navigate over in Cancer. And I'm hoping that that will be something, even if it's a small thing, probably just a small thing, that we can really hold on to, that we can revisit as we make our way through this retrograde cycle, something that will help us get through all the way to April. And I get a somewhat similar vibe from the Mercury trine Jupiter aspect, which I think might actually be more noticeable on the day and in the sort of week or so afterwards. And that's because Jupiter is actually going to station retrograde the day after this trine. So, this conversation between Mercury and Jupiter is very much part of the sort of makeup of energy that surrounds the beginning of Jupiter's retrograde. And when Jupiter stations direct in February, it will have just made, like I think the day before it stations direct, it will make another trine with Mercury. And although Mercury will be in Aquarius at that time, it's still, Mercury and Jupiter interacting via trine, via the air signs. So there's something to this Mercury Jupiter conversation that really bookends the Jupiter retrograde. And as I mentioned in my previous video about Mercury square Mars, there's something really pivotal and important about those station degrees, and the aspects that happen when those planets are at those degrees just stands out that much more. And I think this bookending is kind of really lovely actually, because Mercury is hosting Jupiter while it's in Gemini, and then Jupiter and Gemini are forming these really helpful aspects at super pivotal moments in the retrograde cycle. Mercury is just being a really helpful host, like checking in before the beginning of Jupiter's trip to make sure it has everything that it needs, and then checking in right before it ends just to see how everything has gone. And a Mercury Jupiter combo can often be about good news or a helpful message. We're hearing what we need to hear from somebody to help us keep going, or we're learning new information that opens up our understanding of something and helps us move forward with a more hopeful outlook. And for me, I'm seeing this trine as, right before Jupiter stations retrograde, Mercury comes in with this like piece of information that we need to understand what this retrograde cycle is going to be about, what the focus could be. I mean, at least to an extent. Mercury is maybe pointing us towards the big ideas and the grand plans that we have been working on, working to put in motion while Jupiter is in Gemini, and saying like, hey, this one might need some revisiting or a bit of further research, a bit of a closer look. Maybe that's what we want to spend our time doing so that this thing can really come into the fullness that it is meant to have. So I'm not saying we're going to have all the answers when Mercury trines Jupiter, especially given the fact that Jupiter is currently stationing, so it's really not moving at all right now. Mercury is so close to the sun, so it's not at its best either. Again, we're working under these beautiful trine configurations, but with planets that are struggling a little bit right now. So they're just doing their absolute best. So we're not going to have all the answers, but I do think that it could offer a point or a nudge in the right direction so that we have more awareness around the areas where things might not be as clear as they should be, like where we actually don't have all the facts, all the data, all the details, all the paperwork in order, where something still needs attending to, something still needs doing. And it's like, if we want these big grand plans, big visions with Jupiter and Gemini to actually come to fruition, we need to step back and focus on a couple of these details to, again, really make sure it can come into its fullness. But whatever these things are, it does feel like there's a willingness to do them and even a support in doing so. I don't know about you, but this Jupiter and Gemini transit has been so mentally stimulating for me. I have learned so many new things in such a short amount of time, and truly every idea feels like the best idea. And my sort of bigger overall goals have been just consistently expanding, which is obviously fantastic, but I'd also like to just chill out a little bit. I'd really like my nervous system to just calm just a little bit. And I do really see this Mercury Jupiter interaction as a potential avenue, a potential offering for understanding those visions, those plans, those goals that for right now can be put into a little bit of a holding pattern so that we can either improve them or be able to sort of like consolidate our energy towards other visions and plans. It's a chance to kind of see the bigger picture, but also the details and the minutia of what needs to happen to really make these visions a reality and to not get burnt out while doing so. On the day itself, I think this Mercury Jupiter interaction might bring a ton of conversations and just like ideas by the plenty. There might be a lot of back and forth between you and other people that feels really exciting and uplifting. There could be a bit of debate and negotiation, but all in a way that feels very upbeat and very curious. Okay, that's all I've got for this video. I hope it has been helpful. I hope it made sense. Let me know if you have any questions about Trinesday, or if you feel like sharing, how has Jupiter and Gemini been for you? How has Mars and Cancer been for you? What are you thinking your Jupiter retrograde story is going to be all about? I would love to hear any and all of it. I love chatting astro with all of you. So do let me know. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. If you enjoy my content, please make sure to like and subscribe. It's super helpful and it's super free. And I'll be back with more astrology insights and other cosmic chit chat very, very soon. But until then, I'll catch you in the cosmos.